Salon owners with ADHD, quick question for you. When was the last time you filled your cup? Put your needs first. Thought so. I'm running a second healthy, wealthy and kind retreat in Bali this August. First one sold out just from word of mouth. So if you know it's time to reset, let me show you how. Tapping into your ADHD is a game changer, and so is filling your cup. Just because you can do it all doesn't mean you should. Stepping aside can reveal a lot. Allows your team to step up. 5 days with a tribe of like-minded people is very powerful. Tap the link below, check it all out. Your future self will thank you. Now, back to the show. Welcome to Salon Conversation. Maybe you're only listening to this and that's good and you're not watching it. So a couple of honesties or truth, just let's get them out of the way. I'm 10 days since I had my facelift. So I've still got stitches in my head. I get them out tomorrow. Maybe I'm 8 days. Anyway, never been my strength numbers. We have people for that. So that's the first thing. So I've got a little bit of a puffy head. You probably can't even notice it, but I'm feeling a little bit like the need for honesty. And the other thing is this, I think is entitled How I Busted My Vagina or How I Fixed My Vagina. So if you are thinking this is a sex ed or something, then you'll be disappointed. But my tip is if you're here, it's because you think she's a good chick, she's a funny nut job, whatever, or you're just looking for some light entertainment and some fun. So either way, I hope I will not disappoint you. So this podcast is actually about understanding the human body and the human mind and how they are connected. And how I fix my busted vagina is it's kind of a long story, but I'm going to give you the short story, and I'm hoping that I'm going to give you a lesson out of this. So there are some things that I believe now because I feel like I have more information, but I didn't believe them years ago, right? So if you wind back the clock, I'm a 61-year-old version of myself, but if you wind back the clock a fair way back, I can remember saying this to myself and maybe to the odd friend when I was being an arsehole. These people in Ubud come here to find themselves. I think, mate, have a look in the mirror. That's where you fucking are. Why are you looking? Why did you come to Ubud to find yourself? You are exactly where your feet stand. And I kind of cringe at me saying that because it's judging. It has no curiosity in it, and it's a down outright asshole thought, right? So I don't think I've ever been an asshole, but I've had asshole thoughts, and I want to try and explain that to you today a little bit. And this having the thoughts and not acting on them is like a whole congruency in my body that has caused me to have ailments or illness and things that I had no idea were connected to my thoughts. So if you look back over my journey in the last couple of years, you'd have to say I have changed. I'm a much kinder, nicer person. You can talk to my siblings and they will agree. Not that I'm close with them all, but a couple that I am, they really like this new version of me. It's less fearful of the world. It's less judging. It's really accepting. It's not wanting to control every situation. I just think, lots of things happen, but even little as the Mel Robbins Let Them book, just fucking let them do it. Like, let them punch it out, let them say nothing, let them ignore you, let them not understand you, let them. And what's really interesting about that is, and I didn't notice this till the other day, is someone said, after I'd put this post up to say that I fixed my face, with the plastic surgeon here in Bali, and she said, it's nice that you don't get any hate mail. And I thought, why would I get any hate mail? Isn't that funny? Whereas in the past, I would have posted things way less, putting me in a much more controlled environment, as in hair done, fucking makeup on, is that the right shirt? And have a look. More, what would be the word? Censored, more controlled environment. And I got some hate mail. So isn't that interesting? Whereas now, I literally And I would love to give you some insight into the changes that I've made over the years to get to where I am today. And someone said it's the third act of your life, and I actually think there'll be the fourth. So the third act is 60, 70, and 80, right? So I've done tens, done teenage years, and I did 20s. And then I went into the child rearing years, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that was the second act completed. And then I'm at the start of the third act, which is my 60s. So to say that I'm happy in my skin and that I've morphed into a person who gives a lot less fucks about things is pretty much an understatement. But what I didn't understand, and I now do, is it almost had to be the breaking down of who I was and the letting go of expectations of others that, I don't know, they didn't even put them on me. I just took them. Does that make sense? Like they don't, I think now over the dumb shit I worried about and that I don't now. So, how I fix my busted vagina. I also need you to know that my daughter is a doctor in the emergency room. She works in Melbourne and she's a scientist, of course. She's a medical practitioner and she loves the emergency room because it's like Humpty Dumpty, you know, put them back together. So she deals with drugs and alcohol. Things go wrong and heart attacks and car accidents. So it's like at that pointy point. And so her mother, right, who's, let's be honest, off the chart ADHD, I don't think she is, but she has a lot of, I think, my wonderful qualities, let's be honest, but she also has a very mathematical type brain like her father. Her father was a maths and science teacher, and I'm the creative artist. So you can just, let's just be honest, we created a labradoodle, didn't we? So I can remember telling her that about this vagina story, and she just said, "So let me repeat that back to you." And when she repeated it back to me, I thought, "Oh, it does sound a bit odd, darling, doesn't it?" She goes, "Mum." And she sort of doesn't really know what to do with me. So we don't, we just don't agree on lots and lots of things. And that's because, and I could say because I'm right and she's wrong, and I'm not going to say that because I'm not. And her theory is, oh yeah, when things turn to shit, Mum, they don't rub a crystal on it. They call an ambulance and they bring them to me. So she has a point. She really does. However, I'm searching, I don't know, I'm discovering, I think is probably a better word, the healthier, more, she'll be right, mate, attitude to life. And I honestly believe that there are some really strong principles in a way of not worrying, not panicking, like just let it be and surround yourself with people that you love their company. You're in the middle of the boat, you're helping someone in, you're helping someone out, someone's helping you in, and you're helping someone out, right? So stay in the middle of the boat. So, and she's very social as well. She's very, very, and that's how she's like her wonderful mother. But one of the things that's really interesting is it's a facts and fiction story. And so a couple of her colleagues are GP, the general practitioners. So the general practitioner wants to give someone Ural, right? So let's talk about vaginas and infections and things that women get, because I'm thinking that probably 99.5 of you are women here. So some women get, urinary tract infections and men do too, of course, but or thrush, and that's what my story's about. So thrush was one of the things that I had, and I noticed that my mother had too. As a child, I can remember in her makeup drawer seeing suppository type stuff and, the applicators and thinking, what is this stuff? Get in here and have a look. And so we didn't really talk about it. As a kid, you didn't talk about it. You think, oh, what's going on here? And so it's been a history too. So, and this is what I want you to know, that you are handed down your eye color, your skin color, your height, your hair, all of those things, but you actually are handed down a process of thinking. And that's leads you to some things that will happen to go wrong for you. Example, now you could say, and my daughter would say, Mum would have handed me down the gene that I am a person who would easily get vaginal thrush and need to have a Canesten cream or one of those. I can't remember the name of it. That's how long since I've had one. A bomb, what we call them. Whereas you would take one tablet and you would wipe it out. But years and years ago, you didn't. You had to put it's like candle wax cream in your giny every night for about 10 days. Let's say that, ow, 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 was one of the words you'd say after that, right? If you've not had the discomfort of being someone who gets thrush, then good for you. But those that you do would go, oh, I'm hearing your lease, I'm hearing your lease. Right. So, how I fix this. So, it could be a medical problem, right? And there is a logical and medical reason for it, the fix. And there could be a voodoo problem. Now, the challenge with me is I can't even remember if it happened at the same time or separate, but I no longer have that problem anymore. And so it's really interesting to me that I never, ever, ever gave any thought to my thinking creating me sickness in my body. Whereas there are, and you might be saying, oh, Lisa's gone a bit woo woo. Yep, I have. But there are connections between the way that you think and the way that your body plays out. So just recently, and I've got this fabulous healer here in Bali called Jimmy, and he talks about the pains in your joints, in your shoulders, in your necks. And he says that those pains can all be, he's got a couple of books that he can show you in a book that pain means that. You can imagine my daughter. She said, oh, that's very good. How's that going, Mum? I say, they can never push on the arch of my feet. It hurts like a motherfucker. And she says, that'd be, and I say on the chart, it says it's my gut health. She goes, oh, yeah, that'd be it, Mum. That'd be it. And she's really funny, smart ass. She goes, oh, that'd so be it. Anyway, I was seeing this chap, and it was at a time when I was in a really shitty spot, actually. It was before I don't know, I can't say the name the day I had a mental breakdown, but there was quite a few months when I was just horrible. I didn't want to be here. I was cooked. I remember thinking, I've been at this bullshit for 10 years, meaning menopause and just struggling emotionally, struggling with depression. And I'd been diagnosed, been working with a therapist, and a lot of things were really fucking slow. Menopause really did a number on me. It did a number on my elder sister. She was diagnosed, anyway, it's not my story to tell, but her and I really struggled, and the other two didn't so much. So the other two sisters in my family, I have three sisters and myself, two are fit. They did sport all their life. They were good at netball and all of that shit. I was an indoor cat, and so was my other sister. So is it a coincidence that we sisters who weren't sporty, we had very different body shapes as well, although we're all exactly, no, one's tall, but three of us were like little cookie cutter stamps. But if you look at us closely and the body fat and estrogen dominant and different things that I know about now, I think, oh, wow, that's really cool. I can see that. My sister that didn't have any problem would be more in the testosterone space than I ever was. So there's a lot of stuff going on to make a person. And then let's triple that if it's a woman, let's be honest, right? And I say, I just wish I was in the kiddie pool, meaning that I wouldn't be that, it's not that deep, you know? But with a woman, let's be honest, we're in the deep end and you need to pedal because you got to drown, right? So going back to me having all these struggles, it was COVID. One of my boys spent 6 weeks in I can't remember the name of it, in Melbourne, Royal Melbourne Mental Facility because they thought he had schizophrenia and he doesn't, but he had a breakdown. So it was, let's say, there's so many of us who really struggled through COVID, and I was one of those, and that was kind of like the last straw for me. And then I realized not that long after that I needed a lot more help than I was getting, and I got it. But I remember during COVID, you couldn't get a massage, you couldn't get, everything was locked down. But there was this one chap who wasn't locked down as a massage. And I remember saying to the girl, I used to go to the gym to my girlfriend's house and I'd train with her because I said, we just need to be a lesbian couple because I can't stay home on my own. My partner Simon was in Queensland and I was in Melbourne, and we got separated for 9 months. right? Which is just, when you think about it now, that is so ridiculous. Anyway, that's a story for another podcast. But I was struggling big time, and I spent all my energy going looking after my adult son. I think he was about 29 at the time. So I was very busy focused on helping him, which I joyfully do. But I remember just the weight of my shoulders, and I needed a massage. And my personal trainer said to me, she goes, there's someone I know, he's a bit woo-woo, but you can still go and see him because he actually is, he has the scanner. What can I say? You can scan your card and it's a medical massage. So it's not just a massage. So he was still allowed to see patients. And he was also a person who didn't give a rat's bum about COVID. And neither did I. So I kept saying, I can't, Mahu. It just came to me then. I said Magoo. So I started seeing Magoo. Mahu. He was Italian. I don't know how he had a name like that. So maybe it was short for something else or a nickname. Big, big Italian man. He would have been in his 40s. Anyway, I started to see him and he would push on my back in different points. And he would show me this same similar, if not the same book as this bloke in Bali does. And he tells me that the problem you're having there and the reason that rib is playing up is because it's your this or that. So he would say, repeat after me, and I'd have to say these words in his room. And imagine that I'm lying on my back and he's pushing in these 6 spots in my back. So it's quite different to the one I go to now. 6 places in my upper back. And I had to say these words. I can't remember his words. Repeat after me. And imagine that my hands were, the pain and discomfort was coming out of my body and dripping down my arms and dripping onto the floor. And I don't know, I've always had a very good imagination, as you could imagine. And I used to come out of that room and I couldn't believe. I couldn't turn my neck when I'd go in. I was going to exaggerate and say, twist it like a cockatoo. Well, it wasn't that much, but I could not believe the change in me when I kept saying these repeated words. And it was all about words about me being wonderful and stuff. And I used to say them and thinking, oh, this is it, because I never felt it at all. But in that moment when he would, I don't know, it wasn't like hypnotized, but he relaxed me so much that I could kind of feel this shift in me mentally, and then the pain would move. And of course, you can imagine that didn't stay like that because I didn't believe it. I only believed it while he was guiding me, and then I went back to my old ways. And so the way I explain that, and I explain it to the salon owners that I work with, it's like we've got all these power lines. And actually in Bali at the moment, we've got all these overhead power lines. And at the moment, they're digging up the ground in many, many of the suburbs and they're putting them all underground. But what they're doing is they're leaving the old wiring until such a time as they would have tested and made sure that the new wiring works, and then they won't need the old wiring and then they can start to take it down. But what you can't do is take down the old wiring before you put up the new wiring. Makes sense, hey? Because we would be in darkness. And that's like the thinking. So Mahu had started all those years ago to rewire me, right? To get me to realize that I was enough, that I was wonderful, that even though my son at age 29 was having mental difficulties, they were things that were passed down to me, thoughts that were passed on to him, right? And so it isn't my fault. It isn't my parents' fault. It's just what happens. And when you hand down those thinking patterns and those behaviors, you also hand down some illnesses and things like the way your spine sits, or that you get the same kind of problems that your children do. And we think it's just because, oh, that's how the universe put your bones together. And it is sometimes, but sometimes what I'm learning is it's a lot about how the universe put your thinking or the conditioning, parenting conditioning that we've been soaked in, the same as my parents soaked me in it and I soaked my children. Now, every generation decides that I'm not doing that and they take stuff out. For example, I was raised a Catholic. And as soon as I was old enough to not be a Catholic, I decided I didn't want to be one because I believed that I didn't like the way the church behaved around pedophilia. And let's be honest, you don't need an explanation about Catholic Church, do you? Catholicism and some of the behaviours. So out went the bathwater and the baby. And what I didn't adjust or do anything to is I had no spirituality, none. I just gave it no thought. I just thought I don't want to be one of them. And so out it went. So then I probably went from, I don't know how old I was, maybe 19 until what, 59? Long way, isn't it? 50 years without any spirituality of any higher power or anything. Now, what's really interesting is that I always had a really strong gut feeling. And when I was younger, I was like, and I have it back now, but I can be sitting in a room and I can tell you who's going to put their hand up before they put it up. I could feel it. It's like a fascinating energy because I am really healed and in tune with my body. When I wasn't for years and years, I couldn't trust my gut feeling and I couldn't trust my thought. And sometimes I'd say, oh, should I trust my gut? Sometimes it was there, but I didn't. I ignored it. I pushed it down, right? And that's when things happen. You can be in a room and you can think, mate, what's happened in here? You could cut the air with a knife, right? The air is thick and heavy and you don't know. You didn't hear one word, right? But what the words we say are 6% of the way we communicate. 94% is an energy or a feeling or something. And if you don't believe that, look at the way a little kitten will arch its back and a big dog will just turn away and walk away. And that kitten didn't say a word, but its body language and its energy protected it. So, clearly if you've stuck in the podcast this long, we've got a little bit in common. So what he started to teach me was to say these words. And it was the first time of me starting to really understand. And he said to me, and he showed me in a book, a place on my upper back, which I kept getting the same problem with a rib that's popped almost. I don't know if you even have ribs up there, but he used to push this rib back in. And I remember a chiropractor and osteopath used to do the same thing, kind of rock and put their hand or something in that particular thing, go push, and they'd pop it back in and I was fine. So I just thought I'd just keep doing it with hairdressing. It just comes with the territory. But what Mahu was beginning to teach me, which I didn't truly understand at the time, and I looking back now, I think, mate, that's what he was trying to teach me. But I was like this, I call it the pistachio nut. You ever get a bag of pistachios and you think, I can't open this one. I just can't open it. And you think, oh, I can chuck it. Or you can open if you get a sledgehammer, or you can never open it. And I was the closed pistachio nut. And it's a term that I've used in coaching when I'm working with a salon owner. I think, mate, like coaches talk to coaches, and I say, "Oh, she's a lovely person, but if ever there was a pistachio nut, that's her." And they'd say open or close. I said, mate, you need a nutcracker for that one, right? And so that in term says so much about this person. They've still got all the goodness inside them, but their shell is so, no, this is not it. It doesn't open. So you can't get in to get the nut, right? To make the changes. So that's a pistachio nut personality. So he started that. And I can remember feeling like, how does that work? And I was amused by it, but I didn't take it seriously. And I remember him showing me this book and I said, can I take a photo of it? And I took a photo of it. And sillily, I showed my daughter and she said, oh, right, that's good. Very good. So hang on, mum. Let me, can I just recap to you? And I thought, you little witch. She said, and she's a very strong, independent woman like me. And she said, so your vagina is on fire with thrush and he's fixed it by popping a rib back. I don't know if the rib was the place, but and I said, yeah, actually, now that you say it like that, yeah, maybe I haven't got it right. And she'd say, yeah, good mum, cup of tea. And so there's another lesson in that too, is that he had all of that knowledge and power and he taught me. And in that moment, I believed and I thought, that makes sense. That makes sense. He said, is this a behaviour that your mother has? And it was about a people pleasing. And basically, if you're going to be a people pleaser, you're going to blow something up. That was the moral of the story. And my mum was the same. My mum was the not be seen, just let the man think it's his idea. That's how you get people to do what you want, but you don't have a voice and you can't speak up because you're a woman and you don't have a tertiary education or some other insert bullshit excuse, and you just find your place in the world and you just shut the fuck up when you think, oh, I better not say anything. And he said that'll blow your box up. I've got to get Simon to listen to this to make sure that it's worthy of the general public, because you know what a podcast is? It's the general public. But you know what? I've come to this time in my life and a place. And so if you do like it, please reach out and say, oh, I found that really amusing, or That was fun, but it was of no value to me whatsoever. Feedback is fertilizer. Put too much on, you'll kill the plant. But I reckon I'm pretty good. So, what I'm trying to say to you is that was the beginning of me changing my opinion that everything that happens to your physical body is a physical thing. So, I kept thinking, what have I done? What have I done to this fucking arm? Or what have I done to it? Like, what have I done to it? As in, I must have slept wrong, or I must have woke up crooked, or I must have bumped it on something and didn't know. And unbeknownst to me, he was trying to tell me that my thinking process and not having a voice is, it's like a pain in your connectionness between your mind and your body, and you don't have a voice. And he said it's going to come out somewhere. And it comes out apparently in different places. If you don't have a voice around women, or you don't feel safe around groups of women, I was world champion of that. If you said, we're having a Tupperware party, would you like to come? I said, oh no, I'm washing my hair. I couldn't be seen at any of those parties, lingerie. I just don't know why. I used to be so judging and think, oh, fuck, why do you need to buy all those things? Haven't you got any undies at home? Like 14 containers. Seriously? What do you want to buy them for? Like, I was just judging, and I would never say any of that. And so that's why I say I was not an arsehole, but I had my first thought was an arsehole thought. I'm not proud of it, but I'm sharing it because it's actually an ADHD trait that says, I know what I'm doing and you don't. And it's something I've worked on, and I'm really pleased to say I don't even have those thoughts now. So that's nice. Let's call that progress. Progress. So what happened was me starting to understand about that. And he said it's not so much about standing with your arms out in front of you cutting hair all day. He said it's that you're taking on the weight of the shoulders of the world, the people that are speaking to you and dumping all their shit on you. And he said it's on your back and it'll actually crack your back. And because you don't say things, he said, because you don't say, how the fuck am I going to cover up your roots and keep your colour lovely when you use Pertine, you bloody nong nong? But I can't say that, right? So the problem is that I was working in an environment that I had done for 30 or more years where people are saying, do you think you could do like, this colour and that cut and can you do it for $1.20? Like, now I'm exaggerating clearly, but and I'd say, oh no, you can't. And now I'd say, what the fuck do you think I am, a magician? And I used to say little bits of that, but not really me. So I used to have these arsehole thoughts, which is, oh my God, you have any idea? I haven't eaten since I got here this morning. And I had two teenage boys that stink and that can't even pack their own lunch or get dressed. And I'm coming and you're the 13th client and I'm fucking cooked, right? And I couldn't say anything. So this is was the beginning of me understand not saying what I wanted to say. Now in those situations, I could have said things, not my nasty thoughts, but I could have said, you know what, you and I need to have a really good conversation around what this expectation and this relationship is, because I am very capable of doing A, B, and C, but I can't do it if you won't look after your hair and you won't take a colour home, whatever home with you and a conditioner and that. It's just not going to work. So I just think the best thing to do is for me to show you what the quote will be, what the full and remarkable solution is. You have to trust and believe in me. You need to go home with these products. It's going to come to this much. And if this is not what you want to do, I'm really okay for you to find another salon. I really am. But I just want to be honest and say that I don't get any joy trying to cut colours and skimp on things and do it fast because you've got to cut your appointment short to pick up your children. I'm not saying that picking up your children isn't important, but I just need to be really honest about where I'm taking my business and my life, right? And I just made that up as I went. So I'm sure we could polish that. But that's what I mean by having your say and using your voice. So I could do that for some people, but I couldn't do it with others. And in my early part of my career, I sucked up and did whatever I was told to do. And the further and further I go down the track, the more I realized that I don't want to do that. You know what? I don't want to do this client. So you can put your prices up and price them out. You can pretend you're booked. You can not answer the phone. You can get someone else to tell them that you don't have any bookings or whatever, or you can use your buggy voice and you will be surprised. That's how you fix your box. You heard it here, people. Mic drop. This holding in, this not speaking your truth, it's torture. I don't know how many conversations. I had one about 7 minutes before I came on here No, it's actually before the last one wasn't. She was flat, but I don't know why. But the one before, because one of the things I really love doing is I love answering a call to someone who says, this is my problem. And I say, okay, so what do you think it is? So I always go, okay, I'm happy to pick up the call tomorrow, but I want you to do your homework. What's three things you stopped doing and three things you've started doing that you feel like this? Then the other one, she says, well, and this is a team member that she really likes, and she has done for years. And she goes, you know what? This one doesn't want to do this now. And I'm getting the feeling that she doesn't want to work here. You know what? I think actually maybe that's a good thing. And so I said to her, and she said, because this, and she said that. And I said, okay, so you tell me, where are you not having your say? I haven't heard back from her. But I said, you ponder on that overnight. I said, we ADHD people, we are not good at regulating. But what I can do is teach you to pause. So think about, is this a brand new feeling? Have you been thinking this for a long time? And how long have you shut up for? How long have you not said, actually, I don't agree. What's going on? How can I be curious about what this problem is that I have rather than say, well, it's wrong and she shouldn't be doing it. So that's a very judgment way. And so that's what he was saying to me all those years ago, that she's burdening and she's got this big load on her shoulders. Now she's got a team member that she's had for a very long time that she's really happy with. And the team member is saying she doesn't want to work this particular day or something's changed and she's shitty with her. So she goes, well, you know what? Maybe she can go. And I've said to her, let's track back. Let's have a look, because I know that when you don't have a say about things, you get a sore neck, you get a sore back. It's all up in your upper body. So I never had a lower body problem, upper body problem. Men have a lower body problem. So maybe I need to get Mahu's book and have a look at what their problem is. It's probably from anti-vacuuming. And I don't know, that was very sexist and I shouldn't have said it, but I was trying to be funny. But upper body back problems and shoulder and neck problems are quite often stresses and stuff. And so it's really interesting because you, without even you knowing, you hold them tighter. And then someone says, now relax your shoulders. Like you sit on the yoga mat and he says, now relax your shoulders. And you think, and you relax and you think, mate, they must have been near my ears. Because when you let them down, you think, mate, what were they doing up there? Right? That's tension, that's stress. Do that enough, you'll tighten your muscles and you'll hurt your neck and your upper back, let's just say. So why are you holding them up high? What's changed? And what I said to this girl is, write down what you'd like to say. So then I'll get on a call tomorrow and she'll tell me what she goes, look, this is whatever, and this has happened. And I said, okay, the thing that I want you to do is tell her. And they look at me like I got two heads and I go, yes, I can help you to see her point of view, and that's my job. But I think it's the conversation with her that needs to be had. And they go, okay. And then they go away, they come back, and 99.9% of the time in the 15 years I've been doing this, they come back and go, mate, you are so right. What I didn't know, right, was, and then they start to tell you, and this has happened, and whatever, and her grandma's died, and her boyfriend broke up, and whatever, or she doesn't feel that you value her, or you're making a fuss over this new person and she feels left out, or insert problem, right? And so what we've got is a point of focus here that you can see it only from your eyeballs because they point out the front, and she can only see from her eyeballs because they point out. Now, the problem with that is the problem is not anywhere that you are looking out. The problem is, if we could spin the eyeballs around, it is you. The problem is you, right? So you can choose your heart and go, it's hard to have this conversation, but it's hard to find another person and it's hard to keep making the same mistake and handing it down to the next generation, the same way as my mother handed down to me, just shut up and don't say anything because you're a woman. You can imagine, I just never believed that for one thing, but I watched and she taught me how to make it the man's idea, Lise. And I remember saying to her, and I don't know where I was married at the time, but I said, Mum, it's not 1950. And she said, well, you can do it your way. But she said, mine works. And I thought, how manipulative. Like I didn't want to do that, but I was doing it anyway. I was holding back and not saying what I wanted to do. And she's saying Her strategy was make it his idea. So if you want to go on a holiday and you could be a beach holiday or the snow holiday, don't go, I want the beach, I want the beach, I want the beach. Say, you know what? It'd be really good to have both. What do you want? Because I want to do what makes you happy, I'll do it. And the minute you do that, your husband, well, would like to think that he'd say, let's choose together, or maybe we'll look at it again. And he doesn't go. But if you go, I want the beach, I want the beach, I'm not going to the snow, I'm not going to the snow. He goes, oh, who made you king? I want to go to the snow. So my mother's version of having a say was to manipulate the person. Don't tell them how you're feeling, that you don't feel valued, that you should just suck it up and go wherever he thinks. No, she didn't say that. She said get your own way and do it on the side and do it sneaky because it works. Fascinating, right? So that's my emotional hand-me-downs. Now, I'm not shit canning my mother. She was a fucking ripper. My mum was such a wonderful soul, but she was shifty. She was as shifty as. And my sister used to say, she lived till she was 94, and some of you might have been watching me for a while, and I used to put posts on her when she was getting old and we'd go shopping and stuff. And that woman would get a piece of cake when at mealtime and no vegetables. She goes, oh, don't you think I've had enough vegetables? I'm 94. When do you think would be a good time to not have had vegetables? Because I'll stop when you think it's a good idea. And I'd think, oh, well, she's got a point. She would manipulate me to eat another piece of cheesecake. And even though she's 94, she died of a friggin' stroke. Fascinating, right? So, yes, she can do it her way. And I'm not saying she's wrong. I don't want to do it that way. I want to guide and educate the people that I'm going to spend time with to understand them more, to find out why they are thinking like the girl who rang me before, and she go, I want to know why she thinks like that. Why have you changed? I could have said to her, oh, well, all team members are pains in the ass. Eventually they all be dickheads. So maybe she's just having a shit day. Let it go. Don't even talk to her. Just ignore her. I could have said that. I wouldn't have said that even I just would never say that because I just know from my experience. And this started in me very young because you've got to remember you've got two parents. And my other parent was, let's bang the door down and get a big bright light and shine it on the person's eyeballs until they tell you what the real problem is. And that was the other way. So let's be honest, I was a labradoodle too, wasn't I? My dad was hard facts. You should be doing this, you are wrong. And my mother was going, get your own way, but manipulate. Now, these are both wonderful traits in portion, and I'm only pointing out a couple of negative things, but they were wonderful parents and they were wonderful people. And I learned so much from my hard ass dad, and I learned so much from my wonderful, hilarious, and now I realize sneaky as buck mother. Moira. If you didn't like Moira Conway, you must have been jealous of her because she was a beautiful soul. Everyone tells me that, right? Whereas my dad, yeah, he was a bit prickly. So the bit prickly bit I've worked on most of my life to I learnt very early not to say what I thought, because if I said what I thought, I wouldn't have had a friend on the planet. But I kept it in, I kept it in, I kept it in. And according to Mahu, it blew up my vagina. So there you have it, right? So then what happened is I ended up in Bali. And because I started working on myself and things changed a lot for me, and I started to do therapy and look at having my say and work on my frustration, NLP therapy, lots and lots of stuff I've trained. And I fixed that problem. I don't have thrush anymore. Fascinating. So look, there are other reasons why it could have gone. I had a hysterectomy, and some people can say that you might have had a kink in your vagina wall, because let's be honest, your vagina is not the fun bit. That's your vulva. Your vagina is the bit that shoots up to where your uterus is. And so if you have a prolapse or something, it might be a bit dropped and have a kink in it, and then thrush gets in the kink, because it's not a piece of PVC pipe, let's be honest, love. In there, I mean, my GP telling, gynecologist telling that, he said it's like festoon curtains. And so that could be why that even though you take this medication and you think you've got rid of it all, there are still some remains. And we do have to have some, but the balance was out. So my constant sugar eating, Could have been that, could have been a lot of things. But I have learned since coming to Bali and meeting another chap here that I have recently had a knee problem, which I never had before. Never. And it shits me because I want to skip and I can't skip because of my knee. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to him and ask him because he said to me, I've been there before with other problems and he helps me, but his number one strategy is he gives people their power back. So if anybody wants to know it, and I'll put the link in the show notes because he did a lovely podcast with another girl. I think she's an Irish girl, and he explains his thinking, and he's certainly going to do it better than me. But some of the things that he scanned my body and touched my shoulders and touched my knees and touched my ankles and my wrists. And he says the arthritis in my hands is not from hairdressing, the physical side of holding the scissors, which is really interesting. He says it's from um, all of the stuff that I've heard and that I've not protected myself from the load that I took from people. Oh, you poor thing. I hope you're okay. Blah, blah, blah. And he said that will bend your fingers. I went, really? It's a bit woo-woo, people. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I said, well, why does it only happen on one side? And he said, it will happen on your dominant hand. And he said, well, you only cut with this hand, that. And I said, no, I'm actually one of those unusual people that I'd blow over with this hand and cut with the other. And he said, so you have no pain on one side? I said, no, I do. He goes, okay, so it's worse on one side than the other. He goes, okay. So when did you decide that things have to be symmetrical? He goes, everyone left eye is smaller than their right or whatever. And I thought, oh, you bastard, he knows more than me. I should take that back because he's not. He's a beautiful, beautiful man. But I just thought, he's got me there, hasn't he? Right. So some of the things, and if you can see this, I'll show you. I've written these on a card and I'm to say them every morning. But look what happened. Donald, only this morning, which is really interesting because I'm thinking, what will I do a podcast on? And then he's chewed this card. And I thought, I'll talk about that. So that's how the universe works. I embrace my feminine energy. I love being a woman. My mind and my body are in perfect balance. So these are the things that I have to say 3 times every day and look in the mirror. And he said, what you're doing is you're rewiring the wiring in your body and the thoughts. And he says, when you say these and believe them, and he said, say them first and you don't believe them, just keep saying them and look into your eyes and into your soul and you say them. I embrace my feminine energy and I look into the mirror. Now, I'm not human. No, I am human. I am human and I can't get it. I still haven't got a little rhythm of this one. I did it when I was really, really unwell and mentally and emotionally unwell. I did it every day religiously. I had post-it notes across my big mirror. And then because I got so much better and the pain went away, I stopped doing it, didn't I? Because that's what we do because we're dumb bums. So I need to start again. And I went there, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and then I've had my op and stuff. So I'm out of whack. I need to get back on track. So no big deal. Life is a gift. I love and approve of myself. Life supports and loves me, right? So this is really different conversation and really different wire than, I hear it like chalk on a blackboard and they go, oh, life's hard. Life can be really tough. Life is hard. And they constantly saying that. And Jimmy's saying, why the fuck are you saying that? He goes, because the universe is listening to you going, okay, she thinks it's hard. Send her some more shit down there in aisle 6. Send Lisa Conway. Delete, 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 delete is what you say. So that's not true. So when you say something that's not true, you can say delete, delete, delete. And this is what you learn in NLP. So I move through life with ease and with joy. There's a couple of really good ones on here. I can handle everything that I create. Forgiveness, compassion, and because Donald chewed it, understanding, I think, um, something, compassion, all that I create, live all something. Oh, this is bad, isn't it? Live inside me. I bend and flow through life with ease. I speak up easily for myself. I am seen and heard in the most beautiful and wonderful way. It's okay for me to make noise. I'm adequate to receive the very best life has to happen, has to offer. Something chewed up, Donald. Allow all my experiences to be joyous and free. I rejoice in life. I accept all that life has to offer. Now, these are all new ones that he gave me when I was there last time, but there's a couple that were here the first time. And I remember, and now I absolutely believe this, but I remember, and I don't know how long ago, it was probably 18 months ago or so, could have been more. Life is sweet, and so am I. And when he said it, I thought, oh, what's going on here, mate? I did not believe that. I didn't. And now I do. I am sweet, and life is sweet, and so am I. I know, I absolutely believe that. So that's a bit of a story, isn't it? I can't explain to you how the joy of understanding how you're wired, how you are emotionally wired, that you have thoughts and nerves and things running in and out of your mind, your brain, your eyeballs are just the information collectors for your brain. And it wasn't until I had a nervous breakdown and had to stop all the things that I put on my skin, and that's why I stopped colouring my hair and all of those things that I've just slowly healed. And I don't drink alcohol. I haven't had a drink. It was 2 years ago in April. And I'd stopped, I didn't have a drinking problem as such, as far as a lot of people would call a drinking problem, someone who drinks too much and then acts like an arsehole at a party. I never did that. But I did drink medicine, alcohol like it was a medicine. And that started when my son was in hospital. I didn't drink till I was 30 something. Had no alcohol at all, wasn't interested. My dad didn't want us to drink, so he talked us out of it. And it wasn't until these are all things that when I look back now, it was my trying to cope, just trying to cope with my discomfort of myself. And then when my son got sick and COVID and blah, insert other problems there. And what I realized is I was trying to fix an emotional problem with physical things, go to the gym more, eat this, don't eat that, don't eat gluten, don't drink alcohol. And all of those things help a heap. They really do. All of those things are hugely helpful. But I'd been doing that for about 9 years and I was still trapped in this flipping from depression and anxiety. Anxiety is worrying about what might happen in 5 minutes or 5 years or 10 years. So you worry. And depression is disappointment in self and the past. And I didn't think I had any disappointment in myself. Fascinating. And when now I look back, I did. So I didn't even know I was depressed. I just knew I couldn't get out of my own road. And if I didn't have something on, and I'd go through these patches where I'd come good. And when I was good, I'd think, oh, I can't remember even being not well. And then when I was not well, I could not remember or imagine that I would get better. And so I went in and out, and that's why I thought I was bipolar. I wasn't. And it wasn't until I started therapy, stopped drinking alcohol, and started to heal in a way that they heal you here in Bali when you just see day in, day out that people are happy with less. And even that little dog who's just chewed up my notes, Donald has taught me to be free, to just let things be. When he came, and if you don't know, I found this little dog and he had no hair on him. And I don't know how old he was. They thought he was about 6 weeks, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, he had no hair on him because he was so flea ridden and infested and left for dead that. So he must have been in a terrible place for a long time. So obviously his mother was or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, Simon found him in a furniture shop. And he'd come home and he said, oh, because I said, I don't want a dog. I left a dog behind in Melbourne. My dog went to her boyfriend's house. That's how independent my Muriel was. And so I thought, I just felt that I couldn't. So this is another shame and guilt that I left a dog behind. Muriel's so happy. Anyway, so I don't feel any shame about that, but another thing I work through. But I didn't want to have a dog. And only that morning that he brought Donald home, I said, I would have a dog, but I couldn't get a poodle cross, whatever, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a Pomeranian, they're small, whatever. Like, what a selfish person I was anyway. And I said, I couldn't justify it because there are so many dogs in need in Bali. Like, it just didn't make sense for me. I would love to Pomeranian or some cute little thing I could take Instagram photos on. Oh my God, I can't even believe I thought like that. I just love all dogs. Couldn't care if you're pedigree or not. But I thought I just couldn't do it. I said, there's so many dogs that just need our love. Why, how could you do that? Go buy a pedigree dog. I don't understand it. Anyway, that day Simon came home and he sat down. I said, "What's wrong?" He just looked like he'd seen a ghost. And he said, "I have to tell you something." I said, "Oh, mate, what's happened?" And he said, "I think I need a dog." I said, "Oh, this is a bit dramatic." He said, "I've just been in this furniture shop because he wanted to have a desk built." And he said, "There's this, you have to see him, Lise." And he said, "I think the owners aren't looking after him. He looks terrible." And he said, "Let's go back and pinch him. You distract him and I'll pinch him." And I'm thinking, why would you do that? Like that, I would never do that. I just went back and Simon was really uncomfortable with it because I think he didn't want to find out that it was that man's dog. And then the dog's not being looked after. And then for him to push judgment on that man to say, well, you're not looking after it and I'm taking it. I think that would have been very confronting. Whereas this is probably my mother came out in me now that I think about it now. I hadn't thought about it till this. I said, "Oh, whose dog? He's little. He's not very old, is he?" And then the man tells me the story, and I said, "Can I take him to the vet?" And he said, "Yes, please." So I'm just thinking of that out loud, that I used my mother's um, kindness, but I got my way, didn't I? Whereas my dad would have said, "Whose is this dog?" Called the cops on them. So we took him off, and he said he just showed up. He said he wasn't here, and he just showed up. We fed him, and he ate well, but he said, "I don't think he's well." I thought, "Oh, no shit, Sherlock." Anyway, we took him, and since when I've been back there to pick up, he made me an art easel, and I showed him Donald, and he said, "My mother tells me," she came and she came clean. She said that dog didn't come in here, because I'm thinking, how did he get in there? Like it's a busy, busy road. And he said, "My mother told me she find that dog in a rice paddy and she bring it in her apron pocket and she put it next to our dog. And she said she didn't know anything about it." I thought, I love women. We're shifty bitches, aren't we? We get our own way. So we are hardwired to be manipulative and not to speak our truth. And I don't know that that's always the best strategy. Anyway, I that's how I fix my box. I don't get thrush, and I hope you don't either, because it's not fun. Let's be honest, hey? So I hope that gives you some insight. And if you are brave enough to inbox me and tell me what you liked, I'd really like that, because I'm sitting here looking at me on a screen, which is, I say to Simon all the time, "Why do I have to have the screen on?" And he says, I said, "A podcast doesn't have a screen." He goes, "It's for YouTube." He goes, "How many times?" I go, "Okay, all right." So I do it. YouTube's the thing, apparently. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your support, and just keep being wonderful you. And if you can find a way to improve that wonderfulness, then let's do that. Hey, let's do that. And I'll go and get my stitches out tomorrow, um, and it'll all be good in the hood. See you next time. Bye for now. How I fixed my busted box. You'd be thinking, what is she on? Well, I'll tell you what she's on. I want you to watch this podcast, YouTube. It's an hour. So it's not an hour, it's less actually. I think you're going to love it. Start again. Say, okay. If you'd like to listen to a podcast that is pretty entertaining, I would have to say, and a lot of fun, about how I busted my box and fixed it. Exactly. Then listen to my podcast. It's really funny. No, finally, I'm going to share a story with you about how I busted it and how I fixed it. And I bet you can relate. This is a women's only one, perhaps. You're welcome. Mm. Um, you know, when you do something and you think, oh, I don't know if I should have. I've just recorded a podcast. It's not an hour, but it's longer than most of them. And it's about how I busted and fixed my box. Yes, you're welcome. Tune in. You're going to love it. It's a really good story. Maybe it's a women's only, but you know what? I'll leave that up to you. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and had a laugh along the way. If you want some more information on what was just discussed, or even just to connect with me, just check out the links in the show notes. Also, it would mean the world to me if you would like and share this podcast so that we can continue to grow together. I'll see you all next week.